Hey, folks, this is Brian, and you're listening to the Mission Sicily podcast. Hey, guys, it's Brian again with Mission Sicily podcast. Welcome back around. It has been a hot minute. Lots of fun things to update you on, really on a personal level. Before we get into that, I wanted to point you back to a previous episode. If this is your first time joining us, give you a brief introduction of who we are, what we do. But that last episode is a great ministry update of what was going on all summer long so that you can get up to date if you haven't heard that already. Might be a good refresher if you have. Certainly heard a lot of feedback on that particular episode. People enjoyed hearing, and it was a little bit emotional too. Enjoyed hearing some of the fun things that God is doing over here in Sicily because of you, because of people like you that are praying, lifting us up, supporting, and cheering us on. So thank you for participating with us in this mission. Like I said, it's been a little bit since we've updated not only Mission Sicily, but other personal things have been transpiring, going on, fun things that I'm excited to update you on. And that's what this episode will be about. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We are Mission Sicily. We've been here in Sicily over a decade now, located on the Catania side of the island of Sicily, the southernmost region of Italy, and one of the farthest points south in the European Union before you hit the other side, the other continent, the other side of the Mediterranean, North African coast. So where to begin? Well, firstly, we exist to make disciples. That is our heartbeat. That is the mission to plant churches and to build bridges of hope here in Sicily and throughout Italy. And that is something that has been transpiring over the last year and a half, as we have been developing more vision and some momentum towards what eventually would be Mission Italy. More on that later. So, who are we? What are we doing? Well, we're striving to enlist, train, and deploy the next generation of disciple makers, church planters, bridge builders. We want to see a multiplication movement emerge among young leaders that's fueled by a passion for Jesus and a heart for their homeland. So, in sum, in summary, that's what we are doing. That's what we've been called to. And I remember years ago sharing this vision as not my now partner, ministry partner for over, 8 years. Almost 9 years now, as we first sat down at a table, have a coffee and talk about mission and where we're going, and maybe things are aligned here. Maybe we're heading in the same direction and we could help each other with that. Uh, I laid out what was the vision for for Mission Sicily at that point, which of course I just told you: make disciples, plant churches, and build bridges in Sicily and maybe one day throughout Italy. And as I went through what that would look like, at least what I knew at that point, this is early on in the ministry, make disciples. Okay. Gino, who was then the youth pastor, which youth over here is up to about 40 years old. So, effectively the younger generation's pastor, and then became the senior pastor a couple years after this conversation took place. But we sat down and went through, okay, make disciples. Yeah, I get that. We're trying to do that. That sounds great. We're on the same page with that. I mean, this would later morph and develop into something much more robust and defined and laser focused. But, at the time, sure, disciples sounds good. That's what the Bible says to do. So, we're doing that. Great. Plant churches. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I have a heart for that. I've never done that. But Brian, if this is what you're called to, that feels in line with where God's calling me. I have no idea how to do that, but let's put all of our chips in the same pot here, and just see what God would do. We got to that third part, build bridges, which could be a little bit ambiguous, maybe a little bit vague. Build bridges. What does that mean? Are you going to build bridges? The Romans have been trying to build a bridge from the southern tip of the boot of Italy over here to Sicily since the times of the emperors. And of course, Sicilians will have none of that. They like their autonomy, and they like to feel the separation, and make you sweat for it a bit to get over here, on the boat to come over, or taking a flight down from Rome, for example. So that yeah, it could be something like that. Well, it's not. That's not what we're talking about. Building bridges. I remember when we first started praying about coming over here to Italy. This would have been 20 something years ago, and doing research, meeting nationals who were active in ministry, and then meeting national leaders. And what they said about Italy was really striking. They said, we are, the evangelical community over here in Italy, the faith community, um, in Italy, and they said, we are few and we are far divided. And I thought, wow, there's pockets of the states like that, sure, but you feel that over here. Few, very, very few, and very, very far divided. And so that stuck. And as I mulled over that, prayed into that, I began to ask God to use this mission to help be a bridge builder. What would it look like if evangelical communities weren't so few? That's the disciple making, church planting, but also not so far divided. And so I began unpacking that a little bit. And that's something, honestly, that maybe an Italian national pastor or minister would have a hard time doing, because there is so much resistance to that. But a foreign national like myself coming over here is in a unique position, has a bit of an advantage to be able to take both sides, so to speak, and put them together, because I'm neutral in a certain sense. And so it's been lovely to see what God has been doing with that. But as we unpacked that even more, we saw, well, what if, building bridges wasn't just about evangelical communities, but look how ostracized we are from, the town in which we live. We live in the town of Belpasso, just on the footsteps of Mount Etna, looking over the valley of Catania and out to the sea, about 40 minutes away. And, as we have this unique position here on the mountain, but also feeling a little disconnected from Catania and other towns. And that's that's unique to Sicily and Italy, I think, how disconnected and isolated each of these little towns are. But as we begin to pray into all of that, we began to see, okay, maybe God is calling us to something greater. Maybe he's not just calling us to build a bridge, or to heal the divide, the gap between evangelical communities, but also the evangelical community at large, at least our part of it, and the local society, they would say in Italian, the local community in which we live, because we're seen as a cult, and an offshoot, something to be disdained and looked down upon. No legitimate place, no no biblical authority, or certainly no religious authority here. And so from the typical Catholic point of view, we're talking about Roman Catholic, a little bit different than the setup in the United States. and the superstitions that go in with that, and the cult like manner, and how closely related to mafia and magic and all this, which you can hear about on our other podcast episodes. But all that to say, we started pushing into that part of it as we took up the reins of this partnership in ministry, looking at how to build that or create some healing in that gap between the evangelical church and the church, the community that we live in. And so that's something really exciting. Looking forward to pushing into that and unpacking some of that for you in the fall here, as we talk about how Mission Sicily has developed over this decade. I really want to take a look back, kind of like what we're doing right now, but unpacking step by step, where is God leading us, as we see the trend over the last 10 years, what we imagine that He's doing, what we're praying that He's doing in and through us because of you, because of our partners, just like you, who are listening, following, praying, supporting, and cheering us on. So, at any rate, that whole vision. This is a bit of a, a longer intro than I thought I would do today, but it seems good because we've skipped a little bit of time over the summer. Maybe have some folks tuning in for the first time, and they're wondering who we are, what we do, what we're about, what our heart and vision is. And so, yeah, make disciples, plant churches, build bridges in Sicily. That's what we do here, connected with the local church in Belpasso. And, we place a heavy value on indigenous, facilitative, biblically based, Jesus modeled methodology. So we're following in the footsteps of the master to do what he did, and hopefully see the results that he saw, and he promised greater fruit as well. So all of that is our heartbeat, our mission, our vision, value system, how we go about doing what we feel called to do. And that, all of that has been much more elaborately unpacked on that last episode. So if that's of any interest to you, go back and listen to the previous episode. That said, moving on, we rolled into the summer, the last 3 months here. And again, that last episode tells you a lot about what was planned. We've seen great, great fruit, guys, from the last couple of months of ministry. But this episode, I wanted to kind of pause on that. We'll come back around to ministry stuff on the next episode. And again, unpacking a decade of missions over here, what that's looked like, the victories, some of the challenges, but then also the trend of where we feel like we're going as we move into what would be our 11th year, and towards that 12-year mark. So exciting. But a lot of personal stuff has been unpacking, unfolding over the last couple of years, and coming to um, a conclusion, or how to say it, kind of you're arriving at the peak of a mountaintop, and there's a strategic view, a sense of accomplishment, fulfillment, God fulfilling promises, and it's really that I wanted to share, with you today. So hopefully this is an encouraging episode. I don't know how long we'll go here. Hopefully not too long. I'm thinking about 20 minutes, just to share personally what has God been doing in and through me over the last couple of years. Some of you, most of you, I believe, know my story over the last 5 years, especially as in 2018, I had come back to the States and was sitting down with a lot of you and sharing what God was doing, but also some of the challenges we were having as a family. And just through tears and prayers, you guys supported. So many churches wrapped their arms around us as a family, around me as an individual, as a partner in ministry. And I'm so grateful to have you still in my life and praying for me and for this mission and for my family. All of that came to a conclusion, or came to a head in 2019 when the family was beginning to disintegrate. And unbeknownst to us, COVID was on the horizon, but we didn't see that. We began to dismantle things and head back to the States. My then wife was filing divorce, wanted to go her own way and leave the mission, the family, what we were striving to do here. That said, and this is all common knowledge, I believe, for the majority, the vast majority of you. You can go back to previous episodes in that time frame and understand more. That's not the purpose of this particular episode today, but as I walked down that path, I believe that I heard from the Lord. I believe that that word that I feel like I heard was confirmed through very trustworthy men in my life, leaders in my life. And that word I wanted to share with you because it has everything to do with where I find myself today. This was 2019, and I believe I heard the Lord speak to my heart and say, "This is not the path that you would have chosen, but it is the path that I have chosen for you." And I am dismantling things in this season, but I will put them back together, and it will be better than it was before. Now, I don't know where you are on the theological spectrum of God's sovereignty and all of that. That may be right in line with how you see things, or maybe a little uncomfortable. God saying, "This is not the path you would have chosen, but it is the path that I have chosen for you." Wherever you find yourself in there, it was jarring for me at the time, certainly, and it was not the path that I wanted towards that disintegration of the marriage and the family. But believing that God was in control, even if I was absolutely not in control, and having to follow in line with the decisions of others. I took that promise to heart, and over I gotta share this part with you, and I've said this before. Some of you have heard this several times. I apologize if it's redundant, but it's so encouraging. It brought me to tears again the other day, just reflecting on God's goodness and mercy in this season. We went back to Nashville. At least the majority of the family, one family member, stayed here. And as we were back in Nashville, living in separate places, divided, disintegrating, I felt like my life was falling apart. Had no idea about the mission, if that would continue. Gino and I were, our last parting was in tears because we were seeing so much good fruit. We had our third church plant going, communities popping up, disciple making, bridges being built all over, and it was so exciting, you guys, and to see that fruit and just to feel the, I don't, depends on where you are on that theological spectrum, an attack from the enemy or just life events that are beyond our control, however you want to shape that up. That's what we went through, and we were in tears about it. Not just for the personal loss, but also what the church was enduring at the same time. But as I came back into Nashville, friends surrounded me, my church surrounded me, my mission agency stood with me. Um, it was it was amazing. It was I tell people it was the best of times. It was the worst of time. They looked at, well, you were going through a divorce. How could that have ever been the best of? I said, well, it wasn't that I enjoyed the circumstances. They were awful, horrible. I would never want to go back through anything like that or wish that on anybody. Absolutely terrible. Um, and and yet God was with me and stood with me, walked with me, carried me at times. And I have to tell you, coming back into Nashville, God provided a job so that I could bear the financial burden of the past debts that we had, the past taxes that we owed, the relocation, and the support of my then older, almost adult girls, two girls, and of course the divorce and all of that financial burden, keeping the ministry going at the same time, having a house here but also a house there. All of that, it was a huge financial burden. I could never have afforded that, on a missionary salary, or the funds that we had raised. And so um, God miraculously provided a job for that, what we call in the mission agency a home ministry assignment. And so that those extra funds would come in and I could bear the burden. He provided a job, he provided a home for me to live in, a small, one-bedroom apartment free of charge in Nashville. You guys, if you've lived in Nashville in the last 5 years, you know how expensive that is and what a incredible blessing that was. He provided a vehicle free of charge. He surrounded me with 5 great men of, integrity, leaders in my life, 3 pastors, a counselor, and a life coach. God surrounded me with a group of families that ministered to me and supported me and took me in as their own, gave me that family. And it made me remember, Jesus talking about giving up your homes, giving up your family, giving, and how much more there is in the kingdom with regards to homes and family and treasure. And I found that. And it was awful, and it was wonderful how God provided and God stood with me and carried me through in that season. And so as we're, going through all those processes, of course COVID hits, and simultaneously as I'm taken out of the picture here, the ministry and everything is forced to shut down. And it was miraculous, the timing that it coincided, just incredibly. I couldn't I could never have wished that, to happen. Absolutely, it was horrific. The devastation over here, especially Italy being kind of ground zero in Europe for COVID, and how many lives were lost. But at the same time, to see that the ministry was paused and I wasn't missing anything over here, and God was doing something in the hearts of the people here, while I was undergoing that experience, and God was doing something in my heart in Nashville. So, as you already know, we spent a couple of years in Nashville. Came back over in 21. I'd come back and visited, of course, because I had a daughter here that had stayed because she had just graduated high school, was looking forward to going to university. Of course, no one anticipated COVID. My younger daughter had gone back to the States in that same time period in order to go to finish her last year of high school and then start university. There, of course, was not the experience she was expecting either, because of COVID. And so, you have all these expectations in life and you think you know where things are going, and then, the current picks up, there's rapids ahead, and you just hold on. And God was absolutely conducting circumstances in those days, both for the church, the ministry, my 2 partners over here, Gino and Stefano up in the north, and for my family and myself going through that season. Coming out of that season in 21, I was holding on to that promise because I had not seen the fulfillment. The dismantling, sure, I'm taking things apart in this season, but I will put them back together and it will be better than it was before. As I hold on to that promise, and was holding on to that promise in 21, I came back here and very, very slowly started picking up the pieces and putting things back in order so that I could once again re engage ministry and move forward. You guys, without the ministry, the care, the counseling of these 3 pastors, a counselor, and a life coach, I would never have been able to come back just after a couple of years and jump back in. Uh, but even that part, I did take it very slowly because I wanted to be proven again. I wanted there to be a time and a season of reflectiveness to come back and go, okay, let's prove things. Let's see, is this really real? Did God really call me? And is he calling me back here again, or is this just my own drive and vision for my life that I've had for ages? And coming back over, there was so much confirmation. Again, my church had stood with me, the mission agency, friends and family, and coming back, my ministry partners welcomed me back and were excited to see things prospectively re-engaging. And so, all that to say, there was so much promise in that. And then I have to tell you guys, this is the exciting part where we started to see things take shape that eventually became better than they were before. Within a year of being back over here, all those previous debts were paid off, wiped out. And then after another year being over here, so that would have been from 21 to 22, all debts paid. Hallelujah. Previous burdens from the past. Part of that dismantling, part of that freeing, and part of that being better than it was before. And from 22 to 23, all previous years of past taxes owed here into the Italian system, which is a completely different bracketing system and very, very heavy taxes over here in Italy. That was, we got completely caught up using the help of an accountant here in Italy, an accountant back in the States, putting things in order. God just being generous, God being merciful, kind, gracious, empowering, giving us the financial ability to overcome and to pay off, and completely current now on all taxes. And so the debt and the taxes were taken care of. Things were set back right. It was like a reset button. And that moved me into 23 now, and then to 24, where we find ourselves here. And so what transpired then was I met someone in the church here in Bel Paso. And as we started courting over the last year, I'd been praying, God, if this is your will, if this is where you're leading me, give me grace, open every door, make the path smooth. Um, Let there be confirmation from my friends, from my ministry partners. Let there be just a light on the path and grace to walk it. If this is not your will, if this is not who you're calling me to, and someone that you're calling to me, for us to join as partners in life, but also in ministry, then block every door, put obstacles in the path, and don't let me pursue something out of just hard headedness or the frailty of my own human condition or whatever, needing to be with someone, this kind of thing, which wasn't in my mind, but it was something I was praying. I just didn't want to be deceived. I didn't want to be fooled, being in a vulnerable place or what have you. And so, as we walked things out, again, the miraculous confirmations of not just voices around us and circumstances, but just the peace of God that I don't know how to describe. because it was so fundamentally new for me in a relationship with someone to have that sense of partnership, equality, care, love, joy, and that peace. And it sounds like the kingdom, and it sounds like just a healthy relationship. In fact, as I shared with Gino and other friends that have been with me on this journey, knew my past life, knew where I was coming out of and what I'd gone through, as I explained to them the relationship that I had found, they looked at me funnily, like with a funny look on their faces, and more than more than a couple said this to me. But Brian, this is just a normal relationship now, and you've never had that before. So, but this is what it should be like. And I think it was at that point I started to reflect on that word. I'm taking things apart. I'll put them back together. It'll be better than it was before. And so, you guys, this is all just a praise report to you. I'll be getting married next month in October, on the 15th of October. Happy to share that invitation to you. I have a GoFundMe page if you're interested in participating with that. There's a YouTube uh, channel as well for you to be able to see and participate. Gino will be conducting the marriage ceremony, the ring exchange ceremony, and you're more than welcome to log on and participate or watch that later if it's too early. It's about midday here, so it's super early in the morning for most of our friends in the states. But Rosaria is her name. We call her Rosie for short. A little bit a little bit easier for our American speaking friends, English speaking friends, but God has graced us to find each other later in life after a lot of water under the bridge, so to speak, for both of us, and give us a new life and a new family together, a new home. Rosie is super excited, not just about being a partner in life, but as I said, a partner in ministry. She's going to bring something incredibly new, dynamic, and as a Sicilian, greater insight into the mission here and, of course, here in Italy as well. So I wanted to share God is faithful. God is so good. He has absolutely, in these last couple of years, been faithful to his word and made things better than they were before. And I don't know who that's for. Maybe there's somebody, though, that you're going through that path that you didn't choose, but God did. And he's there and he's faithful. And what he promises, he will absolutely perform. So I just want to give God praise for his great grace that he's had on me, that he's had on my family. My girls are doing great, and I could not, I could not ask for more through the horrible circumstances that we've come through to see God's faithfulness endure. Yeah, so that would be my encouragement for anyone listening. And maybe you're in a position like I was a couple years ago, but having come out on the other side now, taste and see that the Lord, he is good, and his mercy endureth forever. Taste and see, you guys. So all of that, just to bring you into the loop, as you may see things on social media, or you may hear things. I wanted you to know all of the bits and pieces of what God's been doing to make things better than they ever have been in my life, and I'm so excited to be serving the Lord over here in Sicily. The mission continues. It's growing, it's getting stronger, gaining momentum, and bearing much fruit because of you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for just the favor, the grace that you've given me and this family and this mission, our partners, Gino and Stefano, profit. What I mean is that they financially are impacted in a positive way by your donations into this ministry. It's not just me, and what God is doing is creating new tributaries, new rivers flowing out of Mission Sicily and towards Mission Italy because of your generosity, because of your support. Share this with a friend, the mission, missionsicily.com. Share what we're doing with somebody who might care, who might be interested in supporting missions in Europe. You guys, times have changed so much in the last decade. One thing that is still true is Europe is still the darkest continent on the planet, and we need your help and your support more than ever to accomplish what God has been fueling and growing. And what's been emerging over here is a network of young generation leaders who are rising up to change the face of Italy. I want to also mention Gino and I would be traveling here in the north, and I mean not just the north of Italy, but the north of Europe as well. We'll talk about that on the next episode when we take that 10-year pause to look back and reflect, also talk about the trends, where we see things going. One of the things that we see coming our way is that bridge building, not just here in Italy, but here in Europe, because things are so dark, but God is so good. And we see partnerships on the horizon for us, connecting what we do here with disciple making, church planting, bridge building, and sharing that DNA with other ministers and leaders in Europe. And that is so exciting. So excited to tell you more about that as we come back around for another episode. In the meantime, thank you again. Go over to missionsicily.com, check us out, find out more about us, follow us on social, and sign up for our newsletters to be informed if you are not already on there and subscribed. Love you guys. Thank you so much for your faithfulness and support, and we will see you very, very soon. Lots of great stuff to share here in the fall with where we are going, where God has been leading us and gracing us for preparing us for the next season of life and ministry in Mission Sicily. Thank you guys. God bless. Bye-bye.